all the unique characters.
I do let him bang. Yeah, I'm a legend, man. I'm building my legs.
All the stories and perspectives featured weekly.
I wasn't fully committed to that choke, and I kind of sunk into it, started squeezing tighter, and I kind of heard him gurgle a little bit. I was like, oh.
And all the combat sports you could ask for in the best state in the U.S.
Like I said, Ohio versus the world. It's going to happen for sure. Watch out.
It'll be cool, man. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to show them why the Ohio MMA scene is, in my opinion, one of the best MMA scenes in the country.
This is Forged in OH.
IO.
OH.
IO.
OH.
IO.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 97 of Forged in Ohio. My name is Jake Murren, and I'm the host of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode with Jordan Tagg and his fight on Saturday at Cage Thunder Next Gen Fight Series 3. Winners from that card should be joining the show very soon. But today I'm joined by yet another fighter competing in the main event of a card in October. He'll be going up against the number 1 ranked amateur bantamweight in the state of Ohio for his first championship in the sport for BCM. The vibes are going to be good in this one, that's for certain, as I'm joined by Raw MMA product David the Hippie Leasure. Thanks for coming on the show, David, and welcome to Forged in Ohio.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jake. I'm happy to be here, man, and ready to, talk some fighting.
Yeah, of course. That's what we're here for. Thanks for coming on the show. We obviously have a title fight to preview, but I want to talk about everything leading up to October 19th, going as far back as your origin in this sport. What got you into mixed martial arts?
I'd have to start when I was probably middle school. Back when I first met RJ, we used to run around when we was like 13, 14, and we got a pair of boxing gloves and would always box in his basement. And we always talked about fighting when we was older. And then it ended up happening. My uncle my Uncle Dave is one of the coaches out there at Sprawling and Brawling. So I hit him up and I was like, bro, what's up with this MMA stuff? And he was like, just come out to the gym, check it out. Started out there. I was out there for like 9 months before I took my first fight for BCM. It went good, then went on to my next one and just kept rolling. And now I'm with Raw. I started going back out there training with Denzel out there, sprawling and brawling here and there, but just trying to get as much training as I can, especially for this fight.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned RJ the Hammer Harris there and growing up with him and doing some rounds with him. What's that like doing some boxing rounds with him? And, obviously he's a big guy, big heavyweight with a lot of power, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah. Boxing with him now compared to when we first started is completely different. He wasn't as big back then. I mean, he was still big, but getting punched by him now, even at like 40%, is like, dang. Do I want to get punched again?
You sparked me as someone who was a fan of combat sports before really getting into it yourself. Is that true? And who were some guys that maybe you looked up to growing up?
Forrest Griffin would probably be my number one when I was a kid. He was one of my favorite fighters growing up, just because he'd get in there and go dog fights pretty much every time. And even when he first had his first legit UFC fight, when he won, well, his contract to get into the UFC was an absolute banger. And John Jones is another one. And then talking now, Sean O'Malley. I love Sean O'Malley. I don't know, anybody in general that steps into the cage ring, I just got so much respect for it because it's different. You gotta be different to do it.
Do people compare you a lot to Sean O'Malley based on the looks and I guess the style on the feet too? Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, I do. Especially when I was rocking the cornrows, and that's why I kind of stepped away from it.
Yeah. So Like, do you
Always
like those
compare.
comparisons, or is it like a compliment when people make that comparison, or do you want to be, David Leasure, not necessarily Sugar Sean O'Malley?
Uh, I mean, it doesn't really bother me, but yeah, I kind of want to have my own name, not compared to someone else. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. But yeah, that's kind of why I did away with the cornrows, because it was Sean O'Malley. Like when I fought Malcolm, one of my buddies posted a picture of Sean O'Malley and Aljamain Sterling's face off, and then me and Malcolm's face off. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, really close resemblance there between the both of you guys to those UFC fighters. So, growing up and getting into this sport, why was fighting the perfect fit for you? There are a ton of different career paths out there and choices to be made, but it sounds like your calling was to wrap those hands and, let them swing.
Yeah, I don't know. I just every time I'm fighting, it's just like the world don't exist for that time. Everything's silent, especially when I'm in a cage. Like everyone's like, "Bro, do you hear anything?" I'm like, "No, not until the fight's over. Everything's silent." Like I don't know if you ever seen the movie, the Disney movie Soul. It's pretty much like that. Like you're in your zone. Like nothing else matters. It's just I don't. It's weird. I've done from a few other sports, but nothing like fighting. Done football. I played freshman year football, but really wasn't for me. I'm a little guy. There's some big dudes out there trying to hit me. Wasn't with it. Track. I ran track for 2 years, but then I kind of faded away from it and just, I don't know. Fighting is just my thing. I love it. There ain't nothing like it.
Yeah, is there no better adrenaline rush than when you make that walk and you step into that cage ready to go against another opponent?
Yeah. I mean, from how I am now, it's not like I don't know. I don't really get that super adrenaline much anymore. It's just everything's so calm to me now when I step in there. But when you're fighting, and by the time the fight's over, yeah, my adrenaline's pumping. It's completely different. But to the walk and everything, everything's calm. But as soon as someone's trying to come beat my face in, that's when adrenaline starts pumping.
So is that better for you? Like, do you prefer the state that you're in now where it is really calm and you don't really experience that adrenaline rush on the walk and getting into the cage? Is that how you perform better as opposed to maybe when you first started and you were super amped up for these fights and maybe not so calm?
Yeah, it does help me a lot. Cause I can think way more clearly, like, and I'm paying attention to everything instead of just worrying about going in there and fighting. Because when I first started, that's how I was ready to go in there and just throw hands. And then I think after me and Brent's fight, and then after a Tough Man, I kind of like came more composed. And because after Tough Man and stuff like that, I've had 3 fights in one night, so everything kind of calmed down after that.
What was the reaction early on of friends and family like at first when you told them that you wanted to get into fist fighting? I'm sure some were cool with it while others might have questioned the decision a little bit.
No one really questioned it. I mean, my family knows how it was, and there's like, hey, if that's what you want to do, go do it. And because I always, even growing up, I always used to get into a lot of street fights. Like anytime someone would sound, bro, we can throw down. And happened a lot, more often than not, and then I kind of can't calm down with fighting on the streets. Too much trouble.
Were you successful in those early street fights?
Some of them, not all of them. I'll tell my losses. One time I had knots all over the back of my head because I got my head knocked off pavement a few times.
And that never deterred you. You said, "Hey, I want to do this for a living. I want to get in there and actually compete in regulated fights."
Oh yeah, yeah, love it.
I love it, man. That's the fighting spirit right there. I've got to ask about where you train. I know you said Sprawling and Brawling MMA, but also Raw MMA, the recently established gym in New Lexington, Ohio. I know I've recently featured Matt Adams and Brody Rutledge on the show from Raw MMA, but what has your experience been like at the gym?
My it's been great, man. All the guys are dope people and they're cool. Everything's chill. A lot of people I roll with, like Blake Shep. He wrestled in college, so he be whooping my ass more often than not. And then Austin Fox, I train with him a lot. Everybody's cool. It's chill. Besides when Brody and Matt's not trying to kill us with conditioning.
How much has your game grown since joining the crew there at Raw MMA?
I mean, I feel I don't know, man. My wrestling's improved more because that's how Matt's like, you need to do this. Your stand-up's cool. We got to work on wrestling. So my wrestling's, I do that a lot at Raw. I'm wrestling more often than not. So that's improved a lot and going to continue because that's where I need to work at the most.
Yeah, how important is that to prioritize working on those weaknesses per se in mixed martial arts and getting those things up to par with where your striking is, for example?
It's important. You gotta be able to be ready for anything in the fight. So it's like me and Kobe, like I imagine he's gonna take me down in this fight somewhere in the time. And you gotta be ready for that stuff. You gotta be able to compete with these high level wrestlers because I mean mixed martial arts in Ohio is packed with wrestlers. I feel like. And you gotta be ready for that, especially these high level wrestlers that's wrestled all through high school and college and all that stuff. I never wrestled in school, but gotta have that in my back pocket if need be.
Talking with David the Hippie Leasure on Forged in Ohio. Let's get into those 5 amateur fights that you have under your belts. Your first 2 fights were in February and April of 2023. You picked up wins inside the distance via submission and knockout. What was it like starting your career the way you did?
It was great, and I thought I was gonna continue my reign. With the one with BJ, I was nervous. If you watch that fight, I didn't really let my hands go. Didn't do nothing, and then we clinched up, and I got him in a guillotine, and finished that fight. It was cool, but then it's like looking back on it, it's like I didn't do nothing really. I got punched more than I did any punching, but I still won the fight. And then going into my second fight with Damon, I was like, man, I didn't do nothing in my first fight, so I gotta let my hands go, and I did that. And I look back on it now, if I would have been fighting anybody else, I probably would have got hit with a check hook or something, because my hands was down and I was just swinging, fighting dumb, more or less. And so I had to look back at them fights. I wouldn't say I'm happy with them, but I won them.
Yeah, I think that's great because you look back at those 2 fights, your first 2 fights, and they were both first round finishes for you, but at the same time, you're picking up on those things that you can improve on. How important is that to not be comfortable with your wins, but also looking at the little things in between the lines that maybe other people might not notice, but for you, you know that you can improve and get better on over time?
I've watched every fight, every single one of my fights, even my boxing matches. I've watched them back 100 times probably, just to see, even the ones I won, just to see where my flaws was at in the fight. Like, I've never been happy with any of my fights. I've had one of my boxing matches, it was one I lost. I was more excited about that fight than any of my ones I've had and won. And even though I lost it, I fought my best fight that fight. Compared to some of the ones I won, it's like they was sloppy, you know, or I was off my game, didn't go by the game plan or something, But that's how the game is. You go in there and everything goes out the window sometimes. You're just worried about not getting punched or not getting taken down, and all this other stuff. Sometimes I'll go in there and I'm ready to fight, and then I'll be in front of the dude and I'm like, oh, I don't even want to engage right now because I'm not trying to get punched in the face. It's like a Mike Perry moment.
Yeah, for sure, man. So at the time when you make your first 2 walks to the cage, you're 2-0 with 2 first-round finishes. What does that do for a young fighter's confidence when you start your amateur career like that?
Yeah, it took my confidence up, and just the, I mean, it was up there, and then it was like, man, this is pretty cool, and then, like, it don't really mean nothing afterwards. It's just, I don't know. As an amateur, I don't think the record really matters to me.
So after the 2 first fights and the 2 wins, you unfortunately lost your next 2 fights. What would you say that you learned most from those 2 losses to Malcolm Jackson and then to Brent Troyer?
My wrestling needed to be improved. After me and Malcolm wrestled for 3 rounds, I was like, I gotta get my wrestling better. And I thought I had it, and then Brent mounted me and just punched the shit out of me. And so I was like, maybe, I thought it was there, but it wasn't. And I still don't think my wrestling will ever be to where I think I need it to be. But that kind of like took me down, and it took me away from fighting for a minute. Well, not fighting, but what took me away from the MMA scene for a minute, because I was like, dang, bro, I went on this 2-fight win streak when I first started, and now I'm on a 2-fight losing streak. I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And I just kept going back to the gym, kept working, and went and did the 2 tough man contest. And then I was like, maybe we want to try this thing again.
Were you ever close? Were you ever close to like actually walking away from the sport for good?
Yeah, but I don't know if I would be able to. It's like I was like, no, I'm not doing this stuff no more. Like, I'd rather just go boxing. And then I was doing that, and I don't know, boxing's boring to me. MMA is exciting because anything can happen, so that's what draws me back. Yeah.
So are you thankful that you are back in now after suffering those 2 losses and obviously picked up a win, and now you have a big title fight on the books?
Oh, yeah. That's like, and it has picked my confidence back up with coming back and then catching that win over Jonathan, which was dope, because I heard that a lot of people was doubting me in that fight, just like this fight. Jonathan was supposed to walk all over me, but coming back and then finishing that fight how I did was pretty cool. And then now I'm on to this title fight, and it's like, man, I'm kind of glad I didn't stop, and I'm just continue to get pushed back to it. I think my son's the one that pushed me back more than anything. He's like, "You going to the gym?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to the gym." He's like, "You need to go to the gym." And he was constantly, because after RJ won his belt, he was like, "Dad, you need a belt." And I was like, "Well, we'll get there one day, maybe." And after that, I was like, yeah, maybe we're just gonna keep going and see where it goes. And now he goes to he'll come up. He's wanting to start to go to the gym with me now, so it's gonna start to be a little family thing, which will push me to get back to the gym even more each time, even after a loss. Just push me back every time, since he wants to do it with me. And always got even the guys at the gym, they're always hitting me up if I miss a day at the gym. They're like, "What happened to you? Or are you coming today?" Like, everyone always tries to, not tries. Everyone draws me back some way. Just even if they're not hitting me up, they'll post a picture. All these guys, like, my news feed's flooded with people that's in the gym anymore. It's like, man, I gotta go. I gotta do this.
Yeah, man. How old is your son?
He's 6.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I guess he's the one that keeps you in check the most, it sounds like, huh?
Yeah, between him and RJ.
All right,
Yeah.
sounds good. So you mentioned that Jonathan Hartshorn win. How important was that fight to make sure that you didn't lose 3 fights in a row and that you kept that record over 500?
Yeah, it was really important to me. Like I was pushing myself harder than I ever did coming back to that fight, and when I did, I wanna to get that fight. I messaged Scott. I was like, man, I'm so ready to get back in the cage now. And he's like, all right, we'll find you a fight. And then Jonathan hit me up for some of my boxing footages, and I was like, bro, all my stuff's on Facebook. And then after I sent that message, it occurred to me, like, did Scott ask you to fight me? Like, did you? And he was like, yeah. I was like, bro, if you want to fight, like, I'm down for it. Because I respect him. He was someone that always wanted to go into the cage and stand on feet. I like that. That's what I like to do. That's what people like to see is 2 dudes just go in there and beat the shit out of each other, more or less, not hug for a few rounds or the whole fight.
How important is that to you to put on a show and entertain the fans while you're in there?
That's the I say that's the most important thing. Even win or lose, I always want to put on a show. That's what we're there to do. That's what they're coming to see, a fight. And that's what I want to do. I want to put on a show that people will remember. Even at an amateur level, I want people to remember this fight. Every fight I go into, that's what my mindset is. I want people to remember this fight. I want it to be a war. I want, I don't know. I just go in there and try to beat the hell out of someone and then beat the hell out of me. That's fine with me. That's what I want. Don't want to hug for the whole fight.
Yeah, there you go, man. And again, just that fighting spirit there. Between these 5 amateur MMA fights you've had, you've also been active in the sport of boxing. I believe you're 4-2 in amateur boxing as you've continued to box as you've taken MMA fights. How much has the boxing training and fights themselves improved your striking for mixed martial arts?
I wouldn't say I specifically did boxing training. It was always just, well, I go to MMA gym, so we train in MMA constantly, and I was always confident with my hands. Always, even if I lose, I don't know. I just love throwing hands more or less, and it's fun. Like the Tough Man and Rough and Rowdy, they're fun. They're fun events. But boxing's just boring to me. I don't know. I thought about bare knuckle boxing. I think that would be fun though. But that's the only like boxing I like to watch is bare knuckle. Like actual boxing is boring. I don't know. I just can't get into it, and even doing it is kind of boring. So
Do you think that you will compete in a bare knuckle boxing fight by the time you hang it up?
but yeah, it sounds fun. Sounds like I've talked to a few people about it, and they're like, "No, you wouldn't." I'm like, "Bro, it ain't no different than putting on MMA gloves and just boxing with those." And I've done that. I mean, MMA gloves, there's a little padding, but if they're wore out, you're gonna still feel them knuckles. And I think it'd be fun. People like seeing that type of stuff. I'm down for that. I don't know, anything fighting, an actual fight, I'm down for. Like even Game Bread's bare knuckle, I think that would be fun. I don't know, fighting is just fun to me.
And you have a good connection, right? Bad Matt Adams, he's competed in bare knuckle boxing, so maybe you leverage that and get into the sport yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. He hopefully he can reach out to some of his people that got him that fight and potentially when later down the road get me one of those. I ain't trying to do one right now. It might affect my longevity in the sport.
I have to ask about Rough and Rowdy, a Barstool Sports boxing event that you've competed in, I think, several times. How did you first come across Rough and Rowdy?
RJ competed in 2 of them. His first one, he fought the black Italian. But yeah, he's just like tough, man. He's like, hey bro, let's go do this, and I was like, all right, bet. And then he did Rough and Rowdy. He's like, man, I'm gonna try to sign up for this. And then the first one I went and did, we had me and then 4 other dudes from Zanesville on that card, and 2 of them was RJ's family members, as his cousins. It's Barstool. It's different. That is a different event to go to, even just to go to and watch. It's completely different. In the fight at, it's, I don't know, it's just a different environment to be in.
What makes it so unique and different from other events you've been a part of?
They don't care about anything. They don't. It's a boxing match. People's been suplexed in the boxing ring, all kinds of stuff. And it's like, it's a lot of they're not even amateurs, more or less. It's just people off the streets that go and box, and you see some crazy things. There's in West Virginia, there's people that the love they have for boxing is crazy. Then the crowd's always nuts. It's always packed. It's probably one of Rough and Rowdy and Tough Man's probably the 2 biggest events I went and fought at so far, and they're nuts.
Yeah, it sounds like a circus. Is that something that you like, or do you maybe prefer a more controlled environment and promotion, I guess?
I don't know. I'd have to say, I mean, they're both fun to me, but to go and watch boxing, if you would go and want to watch boxing, I would say Tough Man and Rough and Rowdy would be the ones to go box instead of these high level actual boxing matches. Now, if you want to go watch like MMA, yeah, there ain't no crazy stuff like that. I don't know. There might be some backyard stuff, crazy events like that somewhere. But if I was watching boxing, I would have to go watch Tough Man or Rough and Rowdy just because it's that. But it's MMA. There ain't no wild stuff like that, and that's what I love about MMA. You know, it's strictly business. We're there to fight. We ain't worried about nothing else.
Once again, this is David the Hippie Leasure on Forged in Ohio. Let's finally get to it. Your upcoming BCM title fight on October 19th against Koby Carr-Pierce. You originally booked against Jaron Predmore, and now you've got the #1 amateur bantamweight in Ohio. How did this shuffle happen?
Matt got a hold of me, and he said that he had good news and bad news, and he told me that Jaron had to pull out due to his boss was going to fire him if he fought me because he was on medical leave or whatever, and which I would rather him, have a job than him come fight for one night and be jobless, So then he was like, but you can fight Koby for the title, and I was like, all right, bet. Let's do it. And since nobody else wanted to fight him, it seems like, I ain't gonna shy away from it, especially for a title. You know what I mean? And I need to start facing these guys nobody else wants to fight for experience. Especially if I want to do this MMA thing for real, I need to fight for real fights, and that's what Koby's game. His jiu-jitsu's crazy. He don't sit just wait. He's gonna, if I got something, just like my legs sticking out, he's gonna grab my leg. If he can't get that, he's he's a high level guy that no one wants to fight, and I'm down for it. It seems like it could be an exciting fight. You know, it's the how would they put it? Like when you MMA first started it, you know, jiu-jitsu versus stand-up striker. That's kind of how this I get from me and Koby's fight.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that when you were offered this fight. It sounds like you weren't really hesitant at all to say yes to fighting Koby. It sounds like you were all in when this was offered to you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was game for it because after me and Jonathan's fight, I was like, man, I should try to fight for a title next. But then I was like, everyone was like, no, you need one more fight to fight for a title. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I was going to fight Jaren. Then I was like, all that stuff happened. Now me and Koby's fighting for a title. So I was like, bet, let's do it. I don't care who it is. Let's run it.
I know you might not want to reveal his weaknesses, as you'll, of course, try to exploit them in the fight, but what do you think Koby's best at and that you're going to try to make sure that you're ready for?
I'm going to have to be ready for his ground game. Going to have to stay on my toes and use my distance. I'm going to have that in the fight for sure. But, yeah, man, just stay on my toes and hopefully keep the fight on the feet. And, you know, if need be, I've seen some holes from a few of his fights when the fight does go to the ground that I could possibly, you know, get if it shows in that fight in that moment. But, you know, he could have went back and watched his fights, and, you know, he could have, how we was talking earlier, he could fix his stuff from watching his past fights. But you never know if he even does that. But yeah, I'm gonna just try to play a chess game with my hands and feet. Hopefully, come out on top.
Yeah, Koby's got 4 submissions on his record, and I'm assuming that you want to keep this one on the feet. So how confident are you that you would win if that's the case, if this fight stays standing and you can strike with Koby?
If we stay striking, honestly, I haven't seen his striking so far. None of his fights really are on the feet, so I can't say that my striking is better than his. But I don't know. If we stay on the feet, I feel like I have a more of a chance to win the fight than anywhere else. But anything can happen. You know, he could come out and we could be on the feet. You know, and then my ass could get knocked out by him. You know, that's how fight world works. You never know.
So you went from Jared Predmore, who's 2-1, to Koby Carr-Pierce, who is 5-1. Your MMA opponents have a combined record of 8-14. Is this too big of a step up in competition for you, or are you ready for the challenge?
I'm definitely ready for a challenge. So, since I've been working with all these wrestling guys and jiu-jitsu guys at Raw, I'm definitely ready for the step up in the challenge mentally. And physically, now I just have to go and try to show it October 19th. And we can't say, I don't know, I'm not going to say, like, I'm going to win this fight because I don't know if I'm going to win this fight. I'm not that type of guy. You know, I'm not going to go out there and I can whoop everybody's ass. No, that's not me. It's a fight. Anything can happen. But I'm going in there to fight and for a war. I'm ready for a war. And I'm going to try my best to win. Just like he's going to try his best to win. And we're going to see what's happening. Hopefully it's a great show for everybody.
Do you like that people will consider you to be the underdog going into fight night? Is that a role that you thrive in?
Yeah. It seems like a lot of my fights have been the underdog in, and it's cool. I mean, anybody, they can doubt me all they want, but I'm still gonna step in that cage, come the ring, come that date, and I'm coming to fight with everything in me, and you're gonna have to put me to sleep or make me tap before I quit.
There are a few significant firsts for you here. It's your first amateur title fight, and it's your first main event. How much pressure does that put on you ahead of the 19th?
I don't know. I don't feel any pressure really, but I don't know. I'll have to wait till it comes to see if there's really any pressure. But no, man, I'm just stoked to be a part of it, and coming back to BCM since my debut, coming back to fight for a title, it's cool. I love it, and I love that, where a lot of people are gonna be there to see Koby, but they're coming to see our fight. It's in his hometown, and that place is gonna be packed with people for the main event, just for Koby, and hopefully we can go out there and just put on a show for BCM and everybody watching.
I think it's safe to say that this is the biggest fight of your career so far, and for more reasons than it just being your next one. What would winning your first amateur title fight mean to you?
I don't think it would be cool, but I think it's just cool in the moment. I don't think it really means anything. It ain't gonna really mean nothing to me. It's just another fight, and maybe if it was, a high level, like we're pro stuff, but we're amateurs right now, it don't really mean nothing. But the aspect of him being the number one bantamweight in Ohio, that means me fighting the number one ranked bantamweight in Ohio means more to me than the title, honestly, because I don't know, the title of him being the best fighter is better than, that belt.
Yeah, I like that. Last one for you, man. What happens on October 19th? Are you walking away with the BCM Bantamweight title with a win over the number one guy in the state?
Hopefully that's what we're going to go, going to go do. We're going to try to do. We're going to try to go out there and hopefully finish the fight, or, win by decision. But yeah, I'm going out there to win the belt and win this fight. I ain't never going to go in there with a mindset I'm going to lose. But yeah, I'm going out there. I'm going to try to win this fight and put on a show for my people and everybody that's going to be there.
All right, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I always like to give fighters the opportunity to shout out any of their supporters here at the back end of the show. Anything you want to plug or shout out, I'll give you the floor.
All right, obviously, Raw MMA. Then all the people that's rolling or bowling too. I still love all them guys. My people that's always supported me since day one. Love y'all, and I don't know, keep watching, and thanks for the love, y'all.
All right, well, thanks again, David, for coming on the show. Before I get you out of here, it's a staple for me to end each and every episode of Forged in Ohio by doing the OHIO chant with my guests. So,
IO.
Thanks, David. I appreciate the time. Good luck on October 19th, and I can't wait to see if you break through and bring home that gold.
Thank you, man, and thanks for having me once again, Jake. It was an honor, man.
That was David the Hippie Leasure, the 3-2 amateur mixed martial artist. I'm looking forward to seeing how David performs on October 19th. This might not be the matchup we all expected for Koby Carr-Pierce. David Leasure stepped up and took this opportunity. Now the question is how he'll take advantage of that opportunity on the 19th. This is what fighting is all about as David the Hippie Leasure prepares for his first amateur title shot. Don't forget to follow the show on social media if you don't already. That's at Forged in Ohio on both Instagram and Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, which I think more and more people are nowadays, then make sure you're subscribed to the channel, like the video, and share these with friends and family. You can also listen to each episode and subscribe to the feed on all podcast platforms. Thank you as always for watching or tuning in. I've been your host, Jake Murren, and this was Forged in Ohio.